Welcome to the Working Women's Channel. My name is Clara Capano, and we're going to share the real secrets to success. Come on in. Welcome to today's episode of the Working Women Channel. I am your host, Clara Capano, and this is the show where we talk about the real side to success. We know that everything doesn't always go as planned, so how do you keep showing up when the world around you seems to be fighting against you? And today we have the amazing April Porter with Ask April, and she is going to talk with us about her journey to success. So April, thank you so much for being here. I am really excited to get to meet you. I know we were connected by a mutual friend, so welcome.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here.
Yeah. And you have just a vast background of business knowledge. I mean, you were a prosecuting attorney, you have owned businesses, you've opened them, closed them. And now I know that you work with people in helping them get their small businesses, especially in the area of franchises, up and running, which is just fantastic. But what I would love to do is start off the conversation by just learning a little bit about your journey to success. Was there a time where maybe success wasn't so easy for you and you just kind of felt like maybe things either in business or personally were falling apart? And how did you keep going?
Well, I have a story about this and it has nothing to do with business, but it made a big, I know, right? It made a big imprint on my life. And whenever I think about having to get up and persevere, I do think about this. So growing up, I was a competitive dancer and I was very naturally gifted, which my teachers recognized right away, started putting me on wait lists for groups that I couldn't get in until I was older, when I was younger. And so when I got to high school, it was kind of a foregone conclusion that I would try out for the dance team and I would be on the dance team. Mm. And so I tried out for the dance team. And in my high school, you couldn't even try out till you were a junior. Okay. So I try out for the dance team and we go to get the results and they announce the dance team and they announce that I will be an alternate. Now, an alternate means that you don't get to dance at halftime. You get to do some of the sidelines, but then it's your job to learn every dance. And I had to learn the position of 4 different girls so that if one of them would happen to get hurt or be sick, I could slide in and fill in for them.
So you're basically an understudy for 4 different people.
Exactly. And which is so, such an oxymoron. Like it's also supposed to be you're not talented enough to be a quote regular on the team, right?
Right.
So we're going to have you learn 4 spots. Like it makes no sense, right? But what really got me is I knew that I was one of the most talented dancers who had tried out. And afterwards, I was devastated. I didn't understand, what I'd done wrong. Like, it was almost like, why didn't they like me? Because I know I was talented enough. Right. And my coach, my brand new coach, who I was meeting for the first time, pulled me aside and one other girl. And she told me that, if your kicks had just been a little bit higher, you'd probably be on the team. And really, if you were 5 pounds lighter, your kicks would be higher. Now, I mean, if you saw pictures of me in high school, I was plenty thin, but of course that's like rocks your self-confidence, sure. Right? You're like, okay, so I didn't make the team because you thought I was fat. Mm-hmm. That's why I didn't make the team. Sure. So that was in May. And of course, we go to camp in July. I don't know. I'm sure some of your listeners out there are familiar with that cheerleading or
camp. Oh, yes.
Every summer. So we go to camp. And what happens at camp? But oh my goodness, I'm chosen as an All-American. Right. So I'm an alternate who can't dance with my teammates in our competition here. But yet at camp, I'm chosen as an All-American. So anyway, I go through that season. I just suck it up. I love to dance so much that I would take it anywhere I could get it. And I finished that season and then I try out for my senior year and I make it onto the team, and I become an All-American again. And this time I can become an All-American. I'm only one of only 10 people to get to go to Ireland and dance. And so I'm like, at that point in time, my coach, she was like crying when I became an All-American. And I truly believe that she realized once she got to know me that they had made a mistake in making me an alternate, but there was nothing. I mean, it wouldn't have been fair to, knock somebody else off at that point.
Got all the
so she was
behind it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But the story doesn't stop there. All right. So hold on to your hats, because when we were looking at colleges, I went to tour a place called, it used to be called Southwest Missouri State. Now it's known as Missouri State, second largest college in Missouri. And I saw their dance team perform, and they were the Sugar Bears. And I knew instantaneously, this is where I want to be. I want to dance on the Sugar Bears. That's what I want to do. So I go to try out for the Sugar Bears. And I went, and 3 of my classmates that were on my high school dance team also tried out. And they did our first cut. So they everybody does the learned routine, and they do a cut. And then whoever makes it past the cut has to go and do solos. Well, when they make the first cut, I'm the only one from our high school that makes the first cut. Now, remember, all these people who didn't make the cut, they'd made the squad when I was a junior and I was stuck as an alternate. So, but it was still strange, because we noticed that there was a local high school, and all the girls, 11 of them, all the girls from the local high school made the cut. Some of them couldn't even perform all the skills that were required of us. They couldn't land their leaps in a state. They had to crouch down on the floor to do a landing of a leap, or couldn't do the full turns. So we knew something fishy might be going on. So I finished the tryout, and I don't make the college team. And by the time I make it home, I get a phone call. And it's some girls that were a little older, and they were on the team. And they said, after you left, the administration knew something was going on, because every girl from the local high school made the team. And they discovered that the college coach, had also been coaching at the high school, and she fixed the tryout to make sure all those girls made the team. So they fired her on the spot, which was good, right, except for they weren't going to redo the tryout. So this is the second time now where I know that I was good enough to make it on a team, and I felt like I had been, screwed. Basically, it was like unjust. And so come the fall, they had a girl leave for whatever reason, and they decided to hold a tryout for a single spot. So I go along with my classmates. We all go to the tryout, and there's a couple other girls there that I recognized from the tryout that I thought they should have made it too, Mm-hmm. And so we do this tryout for the one spot, and they announce the one spot, and it goes to another girl who couldn't land her leap standing up. And I'm just like, what is going on? Right? What is going on? So this time they said, if you want to see your scorecards, come and ask us. We'll show you. So I go and I look. 2 of the judges, I have 9s and 10s. 1 judge, I had 3s. And I'm like, what? This doesn't make any sense. That judge is in the dance department. That judge chooses me to be in his senior thesis dance to showcase his skills and his choreography. And I'm thinking, why do you want me if I'm a 3? Mm-hmm. Why do you want me to dance in your piece? So spring rolls around. We're in the dance showcase for the college, and there's a Sugar Bear who says, April, you're going to try it out again, aren't you? You should have made it those last 2 times. I said, I'll tell you what. I mean, I'm kind of done. I'm kind of sick of trying out and looking at stuff and feeling like it's not fair, And the guy who was a judge who gave me the 3s, he said, April, I'll be honest with you. The other girl, I knew her, and I felt bad that she hadn't made it the first time. So I elevated her scores and I knocked yours down because I knew you'd beat her. So I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, this keeps happening, right? Like, completely out of my control. And so I said, I deserve to be on that team. And so I tried out again. And when I tried out again, I made it. And then I ended up becoming captain of that team. And then I got to travel the world dancing. And then in 2021, I was inducted into the Missouri Sports Hall of Fame as one of the first dancers ever inducted in the Missouri Sports Hall of Fame. Mm-hmm. And currently, right now, I am shooting a pilot episode for a new series where I am getting to dance, even at this age, showcase my dance skills. Yes.
That's incredible. And yeah, what a story of perseverance, because, you know, whether it's dance or even in business, I mean, how many times have people been passed over for a promotion, even though they know it should be theirs, or break up with somebody knowing that they're a better mate? You know, we have these times, and, you know, again, you, like you said, you easily could have said, I'm not going to do it anymore because, you know, I don't want to keep doing this. And it's that fine line between the definition of insanity, but also going through. So what would you say was the biggest lesson? How did this, going through all this, how did this experience take you as you went into your life? Like, how did you use this as fuel later in life?
Well, I mean, my mother instilled a very strong or sense of self-confidence in me, which I think if I hadn't had that, I think it might have turned out to be a different story. Right.
Right.
But I knew there was something in me that said, I know I'm good enough. I know I'm better than a lot of these people that made the team, and I'm better in the sense of more skilled, right? Mm-hmm. Of course, not better as a person or things like that, but that I have the skills to have one of the top scores. Now, I could have taken a different turn, and I could have said, oh my gosh, you know, I'm just not as good as I think I am. I'm going to go down into this pit of despair and I'm going to let it affect the way I feel about myself. And I made a choice. I made a choice to say, no, I know who I am. Mm. I know who I am. I know my self-worth on that basketball court or on that stage. Mm. And I know what I'm made of. And if they can't see it, then they just haven't seen it yet. Right.
Yeah.
So I was determined. I showed up every day on time. You know, I showed up every day on time. When they said, well, do we want to put Foyte turns in this? I'm like, I don't know how many people on the squad can do it. I'd say I can do it. You know, it's like, I'm not in the dance, but I can do that skill that you're scared nobody else.
I love that. I just want to pause for a moment. And that is such a powerful statement right there that I really hope our listeners, you know, connect with. It's the fact that even though you weren't the star of the show, you still wanted to make the show the very best it can be. Even if it wasn't going to be you that would be able to do that dance move on stage. And I think that that's really something important to understand, is that when you are a part of something, you are a part of something. And it can't just be thinking about you. You've got to think of the whole, you know, concept. And if you have something that's going to bring value to your team, your organization, you know, we can't just say, oh, I'm only going to give it if the light shines on me. That's, you know, coming from that true go-giver and abundance mentality. And I give you a lot of credit for doing that. That's a great, really great point. So thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, my pleasure. And that's how I approached it in high school. Of course, when I got to college, it was a little bit different. I felt like, oh my gosh, I didn't look the part, right? I still had baby fat cheeks when I was 18 years old, you know? So I'm like, I just didn't quite look as grown up and as like, you know, or know how to do my hair great or know how to do my makeup great. And I'm like, but those are all things I can learn, you know? So what I did then was I started doing an exercise routine, and I'd really never exercised other than dance. Dance keeps you in great shape, you know? Right. But I decided, you know what? I want a really flat, like 6-pack abs. So every night, every single night. I mean, we're talking like, you know how they say the post office, rain, shine, snow, all that stuff. That was me with my ab routine. I mean, we'd go out to a bar, get back at 2 a.m. Nope, doing abs before I go to bed. I mean, so I did abs. I stretched so that I would be really limber and have a really great flexibility. I said, okay, how can I improve my skills? I didn't just sit there and say I was good enough to make the squad, so I'm going to maintain this level of expertise and then just try again. I was like, I know I'm good enough to be there, And when I come back next time, you're going to be like, oh my gosh, she's even better than she was before. Right. Yeah. So I went out and I just was determined to improve myself and to become even better at what I was doing. And I honestly enjoyed that. Yeah. Right. So that allowed me to actually, even though I wasn't on the squad dancing, I was dancing in the dance program. I was dancing on my own and choreographing things so that I could practice. And the biggest thing that I think, the biggest takeaway I would have that I would tell the audience is I knew that my vision was to be on that football field and basketball court. That was my vision. And that's what I held on to, the whole time. I didn't get stuck in the weeds and say, oh my gosh, I'm so tired today. I just don't feel like doing abs because I'd rather just watch TV, or I'd rather do, or I have so much homework and I have this big test coming up. So I'm going to let that overtake me, and I'm going to get distracted by the here and now and all the different things that are vying for my attention right here and now. My big vision was the compass point, right? It was like, that is where I'm going, and I cannot let anything drag me down and distract me from reaching that goal.
Yeah. There are so many powerful lessons in this one lesson that you just shared. It's not just the power of perseverance, but again, knowing who you are. And I love this idea of getting very clear on that vision and going for it, and how that gives you the discipline to do some of the other things that we need to do. I want to go and I want to shift a little bit, because I think this ties in nicely with this. Success requires trade-offs. I don't like the word sacrifice, but I think there are trade-offs. And clearly, being an athlete as young, it's sometimes I have to trade off eating the junk food because I want to, have the ability to make the moves. Excuse me. What are some other trade-offs as you got older in your professional life, going into, being an attorney and then running your own businesses? What are some of the trade-offs that you've had to make?
Well, I think that's kind of a funny question. Of course, when you ask me that, there's like 3 or 4 things that just pop into my brain. One of them being sanity, which sounds so crazy, but when I was a prosecutor in particular, I was assigned to the worst cases that existed. My specialty started out as domestic violence, and then it morphed into sexual assaults and homicides. So I was always usually dealing with child victims. That was the majority of my caseload, and women who had been, severely victimized. And then my job as a prosecutor, to be quite honest, everybody was always like, oh, it's so good. Somebody has to do it. Somebody's fighting the good fight. And after I did it for 10 years, I looked back and said, I feel like I'm re-victimizing these people. I'm not making anything better. I'm calling them in and saying, hey, let's tell that story again. Now we're going to tell it to a bunch of strangers. And oh, by the way, I have to let this other person stand up and call you a liar in front of a whole room of people, right? I mean, there really is no justice for victims of those types of crime. And so in that sense, in order to keep going and in order to find to be able to make sure somebody's taken off the street so that they at least can't do it to another person, right? You have to sacrifice, or you have to trade off a little bit of that sanity, a little bit of that that confidence that you're doing the right thing. You have to be okay with doing enough, Yeah. And so I see that. And then I think becoming a business owner, it's really easy to trade some of that sanity as well. Just because you don't know what you don't know when you first get into business. And so you sacrifice a little bit of that sanity, right? Your brain is always running through, what you need to do, right? You're going to bed thinking about your business. You're waking up thinking about your business. You literally have a to-do list that doesn't ever seem to get shorter, right? You have so many things that you want to do that you can't even begin to work on because of all the other things demanding your attention. And that's the, early days of being a business owner. And what we've done through Ask April Porter, one of the things that is really important to me and my sugar bear story really is part of the inspiration of that, was thinking about, okay, how do we really identify why we got into business in the first place?
Yeah.
It was not to be posting social media posts on Sunday afternoons, right? It wasn't to check your email and to feel your heart drop because some customer got their panties in a wad because they're having a bad day, right? But they're going to take it out on you. And we talked about that this morning with my clients. 3 people tell you something great, and that one person can ruin your whole day by telling you, So you always hear how you need to start with your why, right? Start with your why, keep your eye on the why. And that's why you get into business, and that's what's going to keep you going. And I just felt like, you know what? That's so vague. It's so vague, and it's difficult for people to really dive down and understand what is my why. So we changed that around and we call it swag. Okay. So you're going to focus on your swag, and swag stands for sanity, wealth, and gratitude.
Ah, love that. Sanity, wealth, and gratitude. Good stuff. Because that really is what should be guiding you.
Exactly. So then get really clear. What does sanity look like to you? Does sanity to you look like being able to pick up the kids from school? That's why you got into business, right? To be able to pick up the kids from school and spend that moment in time until they go to bed 100% focused on them and family and that familial bond, right? That's why a lot of people get into business, but yet then you end up working. You get home, the kids are already in bed. You work on weekends and you're missing them growing up. And that's not why you got into business, right? Yeah. So getting really, really clear on what does sanity mean for you? What do you want that to look like? Same thing with wealth. Wealth, obviously, we could talk about material wealth. And then there's also the spiritual wealth as well. So really getting focused on, okay, what does wealth mean to us? What amount of money allows us to have the experiences that enrich our sanity and our gratitude, right? And then of course, gratitude. And gratitude is really coming from a place where we don't have fear any longer. We're not worried about where's the next customer coming from, or we're able to give without first opening up the online checking and saying, how much do I want to tip? I'm not really sure. Right.
Yeah.
So really focusing on those 3 things. And instead of just asking yourself why, get really, really specific as to what this life looks like, this life of swag. And then start measuring what you're doing against whether it's taking you closer to that.
Yeah. Oh, fantastic. I love that. And I think that is such a really good, concrete way that I think people can sit down. And I love, especially when you talk about, what does it look like for you? Because that's my whole thing is when I sit down with, my clients, it's what does success look like for you? And again, does success look like you're working and doing that because some people love what they do and that's their labor of love? Or is it, again, I want to be able to work and travel or whatever it may be? There is no right or wrong. It's yours. And I think that, giving people that permission to really be the designer, being the architect of defining that for themselves is so great. So now you mentioned this pilot, and I don't know if you can talk too much about it, but when we talk about, what's next for April, share with all of us what's next for you.
Well, acting is something that I was very, very passionate about in my early college days. And I pushed it to the side because I had little birds chirping in my ear. Thank you, Mom. About, having a backup plan and all those things. So I kind of abandoned it. And then right after COVID, I got back into it through an acting class here in St. Louis. And one thing led to another. And and I've now been cast in this pilot, and we're shooting it here in St. Louis. And it's I can't reveal too many things just yet, but if you watch our social media, we will be able to reveal more and more soon. And it's amazing because I am really getting to fulfill a lifelong dream by participating in it. So I feel very, very blessed. I'm definitely living in my space of gratitude whenever I'm doing it.
That is fantastic. That's awesome. And in all the notes, we'll have all your contact information. But if anybody did just want to find you quickly, is there a best place for them to find you?
Yeah, we're everywhere as Ask April Porter. That's our website and all of our handles on all the social media. And we are holding the Swag Conference in April of 2023 for small business owners and franchisees. So that's the whole focus, is really tapping into sanity, wealth, and gratitude through business education and other special surprises that we have in store.
Awesome. Very cool. So they can find out that on your website and everything?
Absolutely. Yep, absolutely.
Beautiful. Well, April, thank you so much for spending time with me today. I loved your lessons. I love how, you dug deep into yourself and used your own truth to give you that guidance. I am very proud of you that you didn't give up. I'm sure your mother is too. But I love how, again, you brought it all together with helping people really redefine what's important to them. And I love that concept of maintaining your sanity, developing your path for wealth, and living in gratitude. So April, thank you so much. I really appreciate you sharing time with us. Any last parting words? If you could just leave one last thing for our listeners, what would it be?
You really put the pressure on there. If I had one piece of advice that I would say, invest in yourself first.
Yes.
So many business owners, when you don't know what you don't know, you're kind of looking for that life preserver and you're looking for that lifeline. And what ends up happening is some marketing agency says, oh, we have a great product, or, some other provider, you get starry-eyed with whatever they offer and you invest in those things. If you invest in yourself first, you are going to come away much wealthier and not much more knowledgeable to be able to make the right decisions in the investments of other people.
Love it. Very smart. Very good. All right. Well, you heard it here. Let's all work on getting our swag on, and let's look at living in our own truth so that we can define what our future and our success, and always, again, living in that gratitude. So thanks so much for joining us today on the Working Women channel, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you.